Hello, guys. Welcome you to our second day of BA Excellence Conference, BA Job Function Transformation. So today we will have three sessions, as it was yesterday, as it will be the next 3 days of this conference. We will cover how BA can influence strategy, how AI can influence BA job and BA role. And also we will answer the question how to work with the clients, how to satisfy the clients, what they want from us right now. Um, and yeah, I just want to remind you that all sessions we will have on our YouTube channel on a platform. And if you will register to this conference on VR community platform, link you will find in the description, you will have additional materials and also all notifications about our next events. And I have nothing more to say. I want to just present you our moderator and our speaker for the first topic of today. So, Katalin Roman, I wish you luck and a great day. So, yeah, bye guys and have a nice session.
Thank you, Darina.
Thanks, Darina. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the second day of BA Excellent Conference. Just before we start, a few points from my side. During the session, feel free to post your questions either on YouTube in the comments or on via community. We will go through them as much as possible once the session is over. And as always, we encourage you to go ahead and rate the talk after the session is over. You can do it on our community page as well. We value your feedback as it helps us to continuously refine our content and make it better next time. And we are starting with the first talk, and our first speaker is Katalin Kiss, and she will talk about the anamorphosis and the proper BA influence model that leads to higher strategic effectiveness. Katalin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Roman, and thank you, Darina, for the introduction. It seems that my time has come, so let me just quickly share my screen in a second. Here we go. Can you see my screen? I hope so. So today I'm going to talk, as Roman already advised, about anamorphosis, about the proper BA influence model that may lead us to higher strategic effectiveness. In terms of the agenda that I planned for today for my very lightweight talk, mostly inspirational talk, I will cover three main areas. First, why most of the transformation fail, in my belief. The second, how we may improve the odds of success. And finally, how we may establish the right BA's influence model. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Katalin Kiss. I've been working in technology for almost 2 decades. And besides these 2 decades, I've been an EPAMer for, I believe that's the 13th year in a row. When I'm working and acting like a passionate business analysis professional. At the same time, after this 2 decades of industry experience, I'm a mom of a 4-year-old little guy who is my biggest inspiration, how to reveal the real needs and express needs on a daily basis, because again, he is challenging me all the time with parenting. And the second thing, what he is teaching me all the time, how I have to compare and consolidate the different perspectives that lead to better solutioning. This is all about myself. I'm going to start with a great phrase that I like very much, mostly in terms of business analysis. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion it has taken place. Remember how many times we see that miscommunication leads to a misalignment in requirements, right? I believe that this is a really meaningful phrase to our today's talk. Yes. So, as I mentioned before, the first point we'll cover why I believe that most of the transformations fail. During my professional career, I was thinking through what was the biggest loopholes or root causes of any kind of delivery issues I've seen as a business analyst. The first was setting up unrealistic expectations. The second is about lacking of clearly defined deliverables. The third is improper estimations. The first is misalignment with requirements prioritization or establishing wrong prioritization and priorities. The fifth is lack of well-defined success criteria, what we expect as a success. Today, I believe that companies apply transformation too loosely, and it has become one of the most overused terms. Even minor changes or routines are labeled as transformation, but large form org redesigns and are phrased exactly in the same way. Um, I believe that transformation means a really intense organization wide program to boost corporate performance and organizational health, whilst it leads to some form of business model change. Once it succeeds, I believe it will radically improve the business drivers and KPIs. The strategic rethink should allow all the companies to keep their target state sustainable. Today, and as of now, during this, I would say, generation of transformation, which is having for about 13 years of, 30, if not 40 years of history, during that time, the reported failure of any kind of large scale transformation has hovered around 70%. But why do they fail? Because they require enormous energy to realize the desired change. Many CEOs and top management high level executives are more accomplished in a stable environment in a steady state. At the same time, they struggle to lead rather than delegate in an organization where skills, mindset are missing and the commitment rate is diminishing from the employees. Also, people concerned about protecting their legacies, pursuing to the next role, tiptoeing around internal tensions. I have lined up a couple of shortages and cases what I have seen in my professional career when I was working in a really diverse client environment and very different industry sectors. Since COVID and even before that, companies had to react to sudden shifts in the marketplace and disruption, similarly to COVID, for instance, or since that time, economic crisis or war situations. Transformations become the best chance to deliver a positive outcome when they are focusing on changing the mindset and the behavior. And this is labeled as influence model. Transformations have been reportedly 8 times more likely to succeed when these four different cases were applied. The first is role modeling. Why it works? Because people mimic consciously and unconsciously individuals and groups who surround them. Whilst we associate role models with high power leaders, it isn't limited to people only with authority. It is about leading their opinion and how we are influencing them. Today, in the digital world, it provides more opportunities than ever to share information and influence how others think and behave. The second case that I brought you today is about um, the behavior again. People seek for agreement between their beliefs and actions, and sometimes it ends up in dissonance due to their beliefs. If they believe in the why, that will inspire them to better attach and support any kind of changes. Believing in the why inspires people to change their behavior. And due to the curse of knowledge that I'm continuously repeating in my everyday job, people find it difficult to imagine that others don't know something that they themselves do know. Developing a compelling change story and with wide feedback loop is essential. Another statement, what I have seen in the past and recently, that people are often saying, I will change my behavior if I have skills and opportunities to behave in the new way. Similarly to parenting analog that I used before in my self introduction, I believe that we can teach a young kid new things and routines. And similarly to parenthood, again, that remains the same in adulthood. Despite the ability to learn new things, we often meet with biases. People can overlook their limitations and become overconfident, and that may lead to blind spots, obviously. If they overcome these biases, they can fall into a state of learned helplessness. This is how passivity grows. Another shortage. Associations and consequences are shaping behavior. Um, Association and reinforcement can be absolutely conscious, shaped by rewards and punishments. Imagine a reward system which is misaligned with the desired behavior. Again, yet another parenting example, right? Money versus happiness is not linear in an organizational structure. Teams are getting extremely motivated when they are seeing their impact in the customer's life. This is the reality. And also, compensation is not always beneficial, and it may lead to like some kind of source of anxiety. Due to my thesis and the main topic I like it very much, anamorphosis essentially is a distorted projection or perspective requiring the viewer to occupy a specific vantage point, use special devices, or both to view a recognizable image. In the second chapter, I'm going to conclude how we may improve the odds of success. There was earlier a research conducted by MIT Center for Information Systems and Research. They found that enterprises who implemented an operating model reported the following outcomes. There were 17% greater strategic effectiveness, 35% higher operational efficiencies, 34% higher product leadership, and 34% greater strategic agility once they recognized, they're analyzed, and they're compiled their operating model design. We are not yet talking about target operating model design, just the self-awareness of the recent state. The second advice from my side and how we may still elevate the success ratio is a top-down approach to improve. It means that we may stretch for full potential, which means that there is often a misalignment between leaders and management. One pushes for more, whilst the other is rejecting targets as they seem all those targets as unachievable. In the past, many companies fail to neutralize the rewarding system, as I mentioned on my previous chapter, that combines performance with bonuses only. And this is why people started to under-promise and over-deliver more, because target meant clearly and predominantly accountability. Clear analysis of the value chain potential is an essential step zero. Define revenue and cost goals by well-grounded facts. Again, the data landscape, right? This is what's supporting us clearly. The second, sorry, not the second, but the final point to stretch for full potential, why we are in a need of that, recent statistics are showing that 2-3 times bigger estimates than the initial one seems to be more achievable, right? This is a crazy but realistic fact. The second here, as an approach, change the cadence. It's also essential to create a hub of transformation office to oversee that the transformation, which is markedly different from a normal day-to-day one, a weekly tracker that's marking the progress towards the goals, that will help to create a transparent environment and context to all workstream leaders, initiative owners, and the top management, who is essentially governing the transformation. I'm not talking about PIs and sprints rather than leadership commitment to deliver on cadence as well. This is about essentially how we are changing the cadence, that they have their own responsibility and accountability to deliver on cadence decisions, decision support, and continuously dropping down into the enterprise any kind of interventions that they are compiling or they are consolidating. And finally, a theoretical aspect, Parkinson law. Work expands to fill the time available. If we set up targets only for quarterly cadence, people will generally start working on it a week or a month before the deadline. Similarly to myself, I'm trying to learn how not to retain a last minute sprinter all the time. But again, the deadline is coming. People under pressure may work even better or efficiently. On the other side, that is not meaning that we don't have to be proactive and create and prepare our activities accordingly. Finally, empowering the transformation lead with authority, which means that I believe a great transformation lead must be someone who is having clear authority to push the organization to its full potential and to challenge, to praise, otherwise to irritate some kind of organizational, uh, I would say, beliefs and to act differently. This person must be exceptionally dynamic, respected, and unafraid of any kind of confrontation, willing to change any kind of corporate orthodoxies. This person call out facts, push for immediate decisions, and take in acts if the things are not going on the right track. Finally, if you reach the desired outcome, there is a point where you shouldn't return. I know that you're getting bored because of my parenting example, but when I was reading a great book from Kim Jong-pain, who established the soul of discipline, I found it really meaningful to my professional life as well, how we have to set up the different, I would say, mindsets or those characters that we need to represent to any kind of clients or stakeholders we need to deal with. The first is about the governor, which is somebody who is setting up the foundations and the boundaries clearly, helping early development and firmly govern the setup stage. The second is the gardener in the maturity pyramid, which is somebody who is observing, consulting, and based on careful listening comes back with immediate actions and decisions as this affects the whole system and enterprise context. The final model is about the guide, who is consulted and acting as a compass and a sounding board to facilitate others' healthy decision making. And let's go to the next chapter. Think beyond requirements engineering. Reveal your impact. Again, just to conclude this chapter, you as a business analyst or a BA professional may influence through role modeling, fostering conviction and understanding, developing skills and talents, finally reinforcing with formal mechanism. There was a great article about this 4 building blocks of change that I truly advise you to read it out and look into that because that's really powerful. As I mentioned, we are heading to the more meaningful one, which is the BA influence model. I believe that from mentality model perspective, we need to establish a new coping mechanism, which is including how we are nurturing our stakeholders, how we are showing empathy, and how we are attaching to them. As I mentioned, we have to be the best guide, gardener, and governor to them. And finally, accept and respect the customers that they behave to their age and maturity. Again, an activity plan to detect the diverse perspectives, as I advised. This is something that I compiled before because this is what I believe might lead us to the right VA influence model. The first dimension on this horizon is the enterprise. So we as BAs may enable pre-sales activities, project starts, successful setups in white spacing. The second thing where we may elevate our skills, our business capability mapping, and establish the business architecture perspective in any environment we are working with. The third aspect is efficient strategy analysis. So understanding high-level executives, what they want to achieve is one thing, but how we are going to analyze, like what kind of initiatives they will have to launch, what kind of opportunities they will need to step in and invest, that's going to lead the proper planning and successful strategy execution. Finally, what I found powerful in the last recent years when I was working in new client engagement projects outside in market view to understand better the market dynamics, the industry itself, the customer and the product proportion. The second dimension on the horizon is setting up the right governance. I often see that we are trying to adopt methodologies and processes out of the box. But prior to that, I believe that what we need to establish is efficient sales pipeline development, understanding in a client context, in an enterprise context, like what kind of opportunities, ideas are there. And we need to not just recognize, but facilitate these activities, similarly to any kind of pre-sales job or proposal development or feasibility analysis from a BA perspective. The second here is intake and portfolio management, which is about centralizing any kind of new ideas, product increments, product intakes, whilst we are fostering the innovation culture in an organization. The third aspect is enterprise analysis from all the time and all-time favorite, as I mentioned before. So understanding the recent business model, the enterprise level value chain, where we are heading to, this is crucial. And finally, operating model reflection in a certain way, at least for a self-recognition where we are. The third dimension is about methodology. I'm not going to deep dive into any kind of agile, scrum, or scaled agile frameworks or talking about traditional methodologies. One thing is absolutely essential to any VAs, that we have to be practitioners and experts how we are approaching and selecting and adopt any kind of methodology that we need to establish in a new client environment. The second, that similarly to the previous point, once we see how our organization is operating, what's the operating model, we need to design target operating model. So if we have the strategic initiatives and if we know that what needs to be known, what's being accepted, then obviously we will have to adopt these changes from an org structure, reporting line, and processes perspective, because there are many organizational inertias in terms of operations. In terms of methodology, let me also mention a couple of more things which are essential. Domain management. I'm here talking about the industry-specific knowledge management. Also, that may conclude domain-driven design. That may conclude knowledge management in terms of the specific industry sector, as I mentioned before, not only for onboarding perspective, but also to share this knowledge and to elevate it. Then business and product metrics framework. It's not enough to understand like what kind of business KPIs or VPs are expecting from some part of strategic initiatives. We also want to understand our delivery metrics. And finally, what are the outcomes and deliverables that will lead the whole enterprise to success in forms of product metrics, and how we are going to measure that from data perspective. And this is rather a proactive than a reactive approach. We need to establish ahead of any kind of delivery. Finally, design consolidation. I have a great chance to work with great strategic designers, experienced designers, solution architects, and technologists. Who else, if not the BAs, are going to consolidate all the design activities? Finally, delivery. Most of us are mostly experienced with this delivery method or that stage. I believe that with the right mentality model and background and activity plan, if we set up all these prior to delivery, then we will be capable of fixing any kind of delivery issues and moving from red to green. Then we will be able to help and enabling the strategy execution with our full potential, and we may influence the team and achieve a higher impact. Product rollout, that might seem to be trivial, but this is not trivial to many enterprises. How many proactive steps, what are the guidelines, how we are going to roll out a new product increment, what's going to be the approach we are going to use for launch. And finally, monitoring and evaluation, like how we are going to iterate this success and intervene if needed. And finally, what I believe surprisingly, you couldn't see any word about requirements. However, we are BAs, right? Because I believe that the heart and the backbone of everything are properly consolidating and elaborated requirements that we are successfully managing for a healthy organization and healthy delivery, since each transformation relies on proper requirements. Finally, my last thought for our today's talk If we are capable of consolidating the necessary perspectives, it will inevitably change the nature and the outcome of a transformation. Thank you.
Thank you, Katalin. I hope everyone found the presentation as valuable as I have, and especially allows a detailed guide around the ways to prevent those delivery issues that you mentioned in the beginning, and BA basically like how BAs can influence that. Let's try and look into the questions that we have, since we still have 5 more minutes. And there is one question from the chat. So that's a question from Lagos, Nigeria. Is needed for change in behavior?
Sorry, I believe I can't see that in the chat. Just a second.
Okay,
I'm
I
here.
will try to post it.
Yeah. Please, could you clarify what skill is needed for changing behavior? Thank you. That's a great call out, I believe. Obviously, that will require a large rate of commitment from the leadership, because one thing that, how they are shaping behavior, the other side, how we are inspired to change our behavior. What I see here that, and what I'm trying to promote even within the BA practice here at EPAM, but I don't have to do that big job, because here we established a really great global BA practice and the startup culture to promote any kind of new initiatives, ideas, and innovation. I believe that most of the people have to be inspired that this will, the behavioral change is not about the success of the company, the success of the customer only, but how they are upskilling and what kind of new potential they may unlock with their own performance and professional activities. This is something which is highly recognized at EPAM. I believe whatever career path development you are carrying through and you are achieving here, this is going to be recognized in so many different ways. And I believe that this is a higher impact in recognition than any other things. This is why we are fostering upskilling for ourselves, even without a need or an ask. Or this is why we are trying to innovate the things when we see at client environment that something is malfunctioning, let's put it that way. And we are trying to be absolutely generously and politely line up the best practices. And what I'm telling to BAs, to any kind of upskilling BAs, that even though we are working in a diverse client environment, and as I mentioned in my talk, the maturity might be very diverse at each and every client, we can't avoid that we are going to show them the silver bullet and the best practices they have to stick to, even though we are biased, even though we are not following anything by the guidelines because of the client ask. But this will not be forgotten if we are showing up that what's the best practice from an industry scale. That's my advice, that never look at, I would say, never only look at this perspective as success of your company that you are working for, whether your personal success, because you will, if you learn something new, that will improve your skill set, not the company's skill set only, and that's your benefit at the end of the day.
Okay, I don't see any more questions, and we have only 2 minutes left, but maybe I will quickly shoot one. You mentioned the top 5 root causes of delivery issues.
Yeah.
What is the first thing someone, let's say like a junior or a middle BA, should do when they join a project to avoid one of those causes, like, or to avoid all of them, ideally?
Yeah. So moving back, just to conclude and repeat ourselves, unrealistic expectations, lack of clearly defined deliverables, estimations, requirements prioritization, lack of well-defined success criteria. I believe that even a junior or a mid BA, what they can line up to map out the different perspectives based on the different stakeholder groups, like who is if you're talking about requirements classification schema due to Babok, for instance, you may see that how different stakeholder groups are requiring a certain level of need or expectation. I believe that this is the first goal for a junior, for a mid BA, to understand that who is requiring what and for what reason. That's number one. uh, what's the power and value, power and interest of this stakeholder? That's number two, because that will allow us to, prioritize the requirements properly with different prioritization techniques. And probably what a mid BA could do is to line up based on their tool set the right BA approach, BA activities, and what kind of BA deliverables we are aiming to deliver for a certain context. Like on a backend heavy project, you will most probably never step into any kind of user research activities, or presumably this is the case there. You will have to line up different techniques, even for modeling, even for visualization, even how you're approaching stakeholders and requirements. So that's completely different. You have to understand and adapt your BA activities to the project context. This is, I would say, the two first goers.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I know there are also other questions that were left on their community page. So Katalin, if you can just spend some more time, there are just two of them. If you can have a look at them, would be great. I will just share with you offline.
All right.
Otherwise,
Great.
thank you so much for your presentation.
Thanks, everybody, and joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye. Thanks, everyone, for joining. And we are moving next to the second talk that's titled as Under the Dome of AI, a Foreseeable Future of the BA Jobs.